Morning. All right, good morning, folks. How y'all doing? I know we got more folks still sliding in, but we're going to go ahead and start getting rolling here. So this is our monthly sales meeting. Thank you very, very much for coming with us today. We really appreciate it.
Come on up.
Yeah, come on up, John.
All right.
So I have asked John Kimball with Edge Kimball Law to speak with us today. So we have we have a really good relationship with Edge and Kimball. We really appreciate working with them, but there's a lot of things kind of going on in our real estate space. And so right now we're seeing a lot of things happening with fraud and that kind of stuff. And I figured rather than you guys hearing from me all the time, I'd let you hear from John about what he's seeing from on the attorney side and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to let you just kind of roll with us here, John.
For those I've not met, my name is John Kimball. I am in my 33rd-ish year of doing this.
You're starting year 12?
That's it. No, actually, this is my birthday month. Thank you very much. I will be 57 in just a matter of days.
We'll spank you before you leave.
Oh, not 57 times. That would leave a mark I couldn't explain. But started practice in 1993. So really, before the internet. And we have seen a lot of changes in our space in that time. I came over to the closing business in 1998 and have been doing the closing practice then. And so our first technological thing was to get this, a 1200 baud modem and a separate telephone line so certain lenders could send things to us electronically for closings. And boy, have times changed.
Yeah.
Because of the advent of the internet and the ease of the availability of information, there are a lot of folks that do this instead of what you and I do. This is their job. And so they're looking for victims out there, things that they can make a buck quickly. They use a lot of tactics like fear. They use pressure. They use situations where folks are on hard times and such to take advantage of people. And our job is to make sure that fear and urgency and hard times don't make our clients and customers the next victim. Okay. And so you don't have to be frightened from being fraught with fraud. Well, I learned to live.
Yeah, it's a dad joke.
It's totally, well, I have 4 kids, so I'm licensed for that. This guy and I, we've been buddies since law school. He's from Cordele, Georgia. I'm from right up that way. I grew up in South End of Riverdale. This is about us and all that. I'd like to point out one of these things. This is our little statement about things we do. But the thing I want to point out to you all is this number 5. We have a separate email address to initiate contact to begin the closing process with us. When you get a new contract, simply remember max1 at EKLaw, it's actually LLC.com, just like the suffix on my email address or on our website, EKLawLLC.com, behind the max1, and that will get us started. That actually goes to Shelly Christian, who will receive all those, and then the process and the path, she'll open files, handle the pre-closing, be your point of contact for that, but then whatever the most appropriate of our 4 locations to address your closing and handle through the closing process, the file gets routed there. So what is fraud? To know the problem and how to deal with it, it's a good idea to say what it is and what it isn't. False representations, right? To induce somebody else to change what they were doing, to act. And so various schemes invented by fraudsters are somewhat difficult to navigate and understand the things that they've got going on. And so we're using the same technological means or other means involved in our process to fight these jokers and to stop them in their tracks. Well, what are we doing? Customer education. You see this? Anybody know what this guy is right here?
Hard to see.
It's hard to see. It's a little dark. He's a flying squirrel. And so you can't see underneath his little squirrely arms and such, but he's got little wings under there. Yeah, and so he's got those little flying flappy things, bingo wings, whatever you want to call them. But flying squirrel, we had a squirrel problem, and we trapped these guys, and we want to do the same thing to the ne'er-do-wells that are trying to get at our customers and clients to protect them from somebody gnawing on their nest. Ah, there you go.
All right, there's the tie-in.
All right, so one of the biggest things that you may hear about is wire fraud. Now, some lawyers take the approach, some closing firms take the approach, we're going to publicly post our wiring instructions on our firm's website. We don't do that. Because those firms are known to put you and the customer in the middle of being the ones responsible for obtaining those instructions, verifying those instructions and such. But what happens if there's a problem and somehow your email becomes compromised or your customer's email becomes compromised and the would-be fraudster detects that a transaction is going on and says, oh, here's new instructions, closings tomorrow, be sure to send your money here. Well, if they don't follow the steps that we warn them about, they can take the bait. Here's a little informative, let's see, how do I make that play, Alan? You know?
Oh, it's a video?
Yeah, click on it. Does that have
Right, right.
Yeah, it was a playable link.
There's no, I don't see it.
Okay, that work.
Okay.
You just have to talk us through it.
Okay,
Sorry.
so no problem, no problem. So the gist of it is that closing instructions, wiring instructions come from us in our secure portal. And one of the things that happens is there's a mandatory educational piece that our customers have to go through and affirmatively verify that they have seen. What this is telling them is, look, don't accept wiring instructions from other than us. And when you receive them from us, even at that step, you need to call at a trusted number, not the number that you got in an email from somebody, at a trusted number, something that's verifiable through third-party resources. Maybe you go to our website on the internet. Maybe you go to our Google listing. Maybe you have my business card. Maybe you look at the contract where your agent put down our phone number in the form. It's right there on page 11. And you call us and say, hey, Shelly, this is Susie. I got these wiring instructions. I need to verbally verify these with you prior to sending you my $100,000. So then they read back and forth to one another, verify that. That keeps the fraudsters at bay. We in this educational video inform them that that is essential. Now, question for you out there. What percentage of the 100 or so transactions each month do you think actually call us, even though they're instructed?
15, 20%.
It's about a third. It's about a third of the folks. The other side of that coin is for sellers. Sellers these days oftentimes are rolling to another transaction. And so they're needing their funds wire transferred as well. Same sort of issues. And so we go through our closing system and verify those wiring instructions with the customer. We actually have a system that does two things. It verifies the identity of the purported seller. It has them to take their smartphone, it sends them a link, take a picture of the front and back of your photo ID, and then uploads it into our portal. It then further verifies what's encoded on the back of that license to say, yep, that's the person. Then it makes them further take a selfie. Now, why a selfie? It doesn't even tell them when it's going to take the selfie. It just says, hold your phone up, click. Boom. And so we end up with lots of funny pictures of people looking all kind of funny ways. They didn't get their hair fixed. They didn't do their mouth right or whatnot. But it does biometric comparison to know that that's actually the person who's sending the information. Why is that important? Well, simple. We want to make sure that our seller is the person that they say they are. Have we had that happen? What do y'all think? Have we had people try to fake us out? Yes, ma'am. All day, every day.
They did
Yeah.
the due diligence of getting driver's license
Right,
and everything else.
right. The thing that we look at and that raises a huge red flag is a scheme involving a out-of-state seller who wants to do everything by by internet, email, text, email. Oh, don't worry, Mr. Kimball, we'll handle the notary. No, you won't. No, good sense and best practices demanded by the American Land Title Association and our title underwriters insist that we control every aspect of any remote signing. Why? Because notaries will lie too. Or get this, I have had fake notaries. I know, can you believe that? Yes, a fake notary seal, boom, applied to a document. So you go, you get the document back, you check the notary registration. Is this a valid notary? All these things. This is what we're doing to stop these. I want to mention some other schemes that are technically probably not fraud, but sure do feel like it because of some situations. And these are mostly involving distressed properties or distressed sellers, properties with large equity positions where something has happened in the history of it. Maybe there's an inheritance. Had one a few weeks ago where there was a gentleman who forgot to pay his deceased mother's mortgage for 6 years. And surprisingly, it was a home equity line. It was run to full. How do these things happen? You know, and I know how it happened. But he said, oh, no, I didn't do any of that. Okay, right. So he's in a distressed situation. He needs to sell fast. He needs to do a probate for somebody that died years ago. Guess what? He hadn't commenced till 2 weeks prior to the foreclosure. Oh, by the way, he got the foreclosure notice at the end of January. When do you think he called me? The third week of March before an April 1 sale date. Exactly. So this guy was stressed. The situation was bad. Could I save him? Maybe. Anybody ever heard of MV Realty?
Oh, yeah.
Know what that is?
Dirtbag.
Scavenger, dirtbag. Not technically fraud. They would engage in long-term listing agreements for a minimum amount of compensation to a would-be seller. Hey, I'll give you $1,000. You give me a 40-year listing agreement was their deal. And if you should ever sell it, I'm going to get my 3%. Because I gave you $1,000, right? We're good. That's a fair deal, right? No, Georgia legislature is worked to outlaw that and such. These fellas had a variation on that. They took a regular GAR contract, at least that's what the affidavit that they put of record said, from our would-be seller. Well, the problem is, who owned it? He didn't own it. He hadn't done the probate. It was still in dead people's names. So that contract that the scammer had tried was of no effect. When there's situations like that, it raises a red flag. Other situations that feel the same sort of way, subject to offers. Anybody know what a subject to offer is? Yes, ma'am?
Yes, there are offers where basically the buyer gets the title transferred over to them, but the mortgage remains in the seller's name. And the buyer pays that mortgage on behalf of the seller, so
Do they? So here's the problem in that situation. When your seller transfers an interest in the property that they have pledged for that mortgage, they have violated a thing in the security deed called a due on sale clause, which is a trigger for that lender to go and foreclose. For that very reason, we will not close on subject to offers. There are some other law firms. I won't tell you the names because you don't need to do it. You don't need to be tied up in this nonsense. Because you know who they're coming to when there's a problem? It's the person that's got the professional license in their pocket or on their wall. All y'all. So yes, ma'am.
I have another question. What if, let's say you have a very experienced investor that's selling a property and they are very aware of what subject to offers are.
Yep.
Explain it to them.
Yep.
But they would like to move forward with the subject to offer. So
realize as a closing attorney,
All right, we gotta repeat the questions.
okay, yeah.
So,
The question is, okay, we've heard your warning, Mr. Kimball, Mr. John, about these subject to offers. What if I've got a super savvy buyer and a seller who understands? They say they understand the perils that they're getting into. Okay. We don't do subject to closings because that due on sale clause. In closing a transaction, as when the would-be seller bought and financed the home, what's my job? Who do I work for in a finance closing? I work for the lender. And so in doing this subject to closing, odds are I am acting against the interest of my client because it's like, oh, don't tell the lender that we have done this thing because we don't want to trigger that due on sale clause. Can't do that. Can't ethically do that. So we don't. I would advise y'all to steer clear of them as well. Even if you think you've got a savvy buyer and a customer that's the seller that understands the whole thing, you've put your seller in peril.
now, I'm just gonna cut in real quick. A lot of our due on or our subject to offer folks, they are sending out like multiple documents talking about how this is a no-brainer and what a great deal this is for the client and how there's no risk, and it's all a lie because the seller takes on a ton of risk with this. What if they don't pay the mortgage? What if the property gets called for due on sale? What if they rent it out and those folks trash the property? That person still owns the home.
Yeah.
And now they've also got, now a lot of times they're actually putting this on the deed as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. A true story. My mother-in-law was in these dire straits and whatnot and came to me and asked about doing one of these. And I did my best to educate her and persuade her not to take the bait, but she had whatever exigent circumstances and was hell-bent on doing the thing anyway. And guess who didn't pay the mortgage?
Yeah.
The buyer. They promised they would, but who was left holding the bag, whose credit was torched, who was not able to finance a new house? My mother-in-law. Even though she asked me about it, asked my professional opinion, folks are going to ignore you just like they ignore me. Beware. Other things that feel like that, installment sales contract for deeds, kind of the flip side of that, where you've got a buyer who thinks they're buying a home and they're basically a renter who is paying a mortgage payment that's really tantamount to rent, thinking that they're entitled. When you do these things, these installment sales contracts for deed, bonds for title is what they get called across the river over in Alabama. It's a form of seller financing where the buyer gets nothing other than basically an option to purchase if they complete everything over years. So I say to folks who come to me wanting to see these, let's do a lease purchase option. You complete that and then do the sale. And that way you're not into one of these things where a buyer is uneducated or undereducated about what's going on. All right, that's enough on that slide. Seller impersonation fraud. This is huge right now. And so yes, ma'am?
I'm so sorry. There's a new thing called novation.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard that? Yeah.
In what context? Novation just means a new.
The seller gives a right to,
You gotta come up here.
sorry,
Stop.
Come on down,
No one
man.
can hear you, babe.
I'm trying to project my voice.
It doesn't work. The microphone pointed this way.
So the novation is where the seller gives a potential buyer, basically power attorney in fact. And so when you look at the tax record, it's gonna show John Smith as the owner. But when you sign a contract, it may be Betty Smith or somebody else, LLC company, that signs a contract. Make sure you connect the two dots, and whoever the closing attorney is, make sure you get a written statement from the closing attorney that this LLC has the ability to sell for John Smith.
Right, you're
Because
talking about
that's a
some sort of.
novation. That is, they call it novation at this point.
It's just an agency relationship, sounds like, which can be legitimate. It's analogous to what happens in relocations, but it doesn't sound like that's the relocation
That is
scenario.
not, so. the
Sounds like it's a distressed seller.
Yes, it's always, just so you know, all these transactions are always distressed sellers.
Well, now,
Okay.
the vacant land
Most
ones
of
are
them.
not.
Yes,
Most
that's
of those
correct.
sellers don't even know that.
Which
that
brings
property's
us-
being sold.
Which brings us to seller impersonation fraud. So we talked about the red flags, and when we've got distressed properties and such. Whenever we see a property that has no mortgage on it, where we have a seller that is out of state or whatnot, that raises a red flag. We've actually added a special stamp in our markup system to put an actual red flag right on the document that we're looking at for title, saying, hey, high alert, we'll flag it as a critical issue. Whenever there's a request to rush, that is a red flag. Whenever the seller is itching to get the thing done super quick, whenever the buyer is getting the urge to do things super quick, that is a huge red flag. So,
Can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
with This one, I know, I'm sorry.
no, it's fine.
As listing agents, we have a responsibility to make sure that we know the seller. And so if you get someone that's a real referral and you know who's referring you, that's one thing. But a lot of times we'll get like, hey, I need to sell this land. Yeah, it's 7 acres and I just want to get rid of it right now. Huge red flag.
Mhm.
They'll send you over and so ask for ID. Sometimes it comes over and it looks like it's been photocopied 7 times. You can barely read the name. Red flag. You can take that ID and go into Google, check their address, cross-reference it, and see if that really is who the person is. Ask them to live stream you. Ask them to go do a video call. Because half the time these are coming through a lot of, some of these other services like, I can't talk right now. I can't talk right now. This is not a real seller. This is fraud. Do not benefit them by helping them defraud the public on there. Now, if you're on the buy side, please make sure that when you are, especially going after vacant land or property that doesn't have a mortgage on it, kind of thing, and you can see in tax records if it has a mortgage, ask the listing agent, do you know this seller? Do you know, is this a legit sale? Because I don't want especially on like land, I don't want to go do a survey and a perk test and all these other kind of things just to find out that it wasn't the true seller. And so, sorry, I didn't mean to cut.
No, you hit on exactly one of the biggest red flags is when there is no mortgage to be paid and there's going to be a big cash payout from the transaction. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a question about, like, the enhanced title insurance policy.
Mhm.
So in a case like this, let's say I bought a property cash or something like that, no mortgage, this red flag thing happens, the attorney doesn't catch it, it gets sold to a buyer, the buyer has their title insurance policy.
Mhm.
I have my enhanced title insurance policy that's supposed to protect things post-closing. In that scenario, what happens?
So.
A mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A mess. Yep. So the question is, where does title insurance come into play for both buyer and seller in these situations? If it's truly a fraud and a seller is defrauded, is the seller protected against that fraudulent deed is your question on title insurance. And I'm going to give you a lawyer answer. I apologize for that, but maybe. The same thing on the buyer side. It's if the buyer is a bona fide purchaser for value, then the buyer may be protected as well. There's going to be obvious investigation by folks with the pockets, with the money at risk and such, to try to make sure that that's not a furtherance of the fraud and the claim, that they're not somehow intertwined in this.
Well, but they're also gonna be going after that closing attorney that closed the deal.
Yeah.
Without verifying, I mean, like you really are, you're in litigation territory. We're not necessarily in real estate land anymore.
Right.
Now we're, no, it's my property, it's my property. They're suing each other left and right.
Right. So it's important to know the markers when a sale price is of non-owner occupied property is just too good to be true. When you've got seniors that are involved in the transaction and someone wants to sign for them with a power of attorney, those things can be legitimate, but we've got to do our due diligence to verify all that, to ferret all that out. Yes, ma'am. One more question, then we got to move on.
And so, is there a way for someone outright owns properties or something like that to get alerts? If
Yes.
Somebody, okay.
Fans.
And-
Yes, the Georgia Superior Court Clerks Cooperative Authority back a few years ago put in place FANS, the Fraud Alert Notification System. And through registration with the Georgia Superior Court Clerks Cooperative Authority, totally free.
GSCCCA.org.
With that service, totally free, a homeowner, a landowner can register, doesn't extend to business names, but individual names. You can tell the system what names you would like for it to monitor. So my name's John Kimball. I would put in John Kimball, and then it lets you specify how you would like to receive an alert. This doesn't stop a deed from being filed. Okay. This only notifies you after the fact that it's been done. You'll get a notice either by text or email, depending on how you set that up.
But most of them, they have tried to already get the deed fraudulently in their name to show that they are the owners, and that's when you get notified through the fan system.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Do your law firm handle family law or?
I've got one lawyer with us that deals with, we do wills, trusts, estates, probates, we do corporations, LLCs, those sorts of things, anything to do with property. I've actually got an intellectual property lawyer that's joined the firm as well, that is in our Locust Grove office, but he comes to us with about 20 years in experience in the legal side of the entertainment business and such. And so, yes. In a nutshell, yes. All right, let's move on through this. Lots of closing fraud schemes. This one right here. Whenever someone is shielding you or me from actually speaking with a person involved in the transaction. Oh, she can't come to the phone. Oh, they're not available. They're old, da, 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 whatever the thing is. Know that that is a huge red flag. Don't do business with folks that won't let you talk to your actual customer.
And a power of attorney has to be drawn up by the closing attorney where that property is. It has to be specific for the purpose of transacting real estate. It can't be a general, like, I can choose your medicine, I can do this, I can sell your house. Those don't work, right?
Correct. A few years back, there was a Uniform Powers of Attorney Act that was adopted here in Georgia, in a Georgia version of that put in some penalties for non-acceptance of a standardized power of attorney. So we do two things. We prefer the specific powers of attorney like Alan was talking about. We'll prepare them for both buyer and or seller if necessary in a transaction to facilitate things, but we're going to verify that person. We're going to control the execution of that power of attorney. We're going to make sure that it's the person that we're dealing with. General powers of attorney, we look for how recent was it done? And can we get into communication with the person who was the giver of the power of attorney, the principal, not the agent? Are we able to speak with them? Are we able to verify their ID? Are they aware that the purported attorney, in fact, is attempting to use this? So if you come to a closing with me, whether it's a specific power of attorney or a general power of attorney, you're going to see right in my stack on my checklist, my get sheet of things to do is something called an alive and well affidavit. We're going to make a phone call to the person who's supposed to be the one that's our buyer or seller. We're going to verbally verify that they are alive, that they are well. They understand that this document is being used for the purpose. They are aware of the end result of the transaction, and they have directed payment of the sales proceeds to us through our systems directly, and we've been able to handle that as well and get that information, get that.
Attorney work on a dead person.
Yes.
Oh, serious? Like,
My favorite dad-
people try that. Well, I can sign for them. They're dead. You ain't signing with them.
Right? My favorite dad joke on the subject is your power of attorney expires when you do. But I'm bunch. Okay. All right. So wire fraud. This is where we want folks to download wiring instructions from our closed and verified and trusted system and not put you in the middle. Don't get in the middle, whether you close with me or close with some other attorney in the area, or if you've got an out-of-state transaction. Don't become the middle person for handling of wiring instructions. Make sure that it is your customer directly who's receiving that information. Because you don't want to be the one who had the compromised electronic situation, whether it's email or what have you, that ended up in money going to the wrong place. Just pure and simple, stay out of it. Customer, you need to read or see the educational video from Edge and Kimball. You need to follow those instructions specifically. All right, that makes sense. So never do we send out changed wiring instructions in the middle of a transaction. Solar impersonation fraud. These are some more of the markers of that. Overseas, where someone's got to go to an embassy. And now, if it's a soldier, there's provisions for that. We can deal with that. We know how to verify all those sorts of things. But if we've got some sort of emotional component to the story they're telling you, oh, my baby needs emergency surgery, yada, yada. Okay, let's take a step back and turn and run.
You're also looking for folks that are really trying to be very intimidating in a lot of cases. A lot of times they will try and bully you.
Yeah,
They'll try and bully them.
they will try to. They will try to. And I've heard tale of other lawyers falling for that and ultimately sending out funds to bogus wiring instructions and such. So it just takes one time for you to get bit. New title and attorney impersonation fraud. What? Yeah, we're the title company. We're the closing attorney. And so folks are now sending out variant emails with forms of a domain name that look an awful lot like others. We had one not too long ago that purported to be out of Philadelphia. And contrary to Maximum One's growth plans, we are not in Philly yet. Maybe next week.
Yeah.
But it was Edge and Kimball, not Kimbell, my last name, odd spelling. So when you see it misspelled, you know that somebody's not in the loop. Edge and Kimball Title Law, PA in Street in Philadelphia. And so there's a series of bogus deeds that have a return marker over in Henry County, about 5 different things, all returned to a would-be buyer and seller in just up the street a little bit in Atlanta, and registered. Hey, they registered their company with the Secretary of State, so that's good. So anyhow, yeah, impersonation fraud is everywhere. And so these folks were trying to fake all these things with a fraudulent title company, fraudulent closing attorney, fraudulent notary. Be on the alert. Be on the alert. If you get an email, take the step to read the sender's name. Get with your technology people if you see something suspicious so that they can run it through a little, what they call a DMARC verifier that traces the path of where that email came from. So you'll know whether it came from a legitimate server. This is the whole reason that everything that you see coming from us related to a closing, can you send that to me unencrypted? I can't open that email. I don't know how to do all that. Sorry. No, we're not going to send it to you unencrypted. Can you send it to me this in such a way? Nope. There's about 1, maybe 2 ways that we can send out encrypted emails and encrypted instructions. We do that for everyone's protection, including our own. So people will fake stuff. How am I doing on time?
We're tight.
We're tight.
Yep. Chop, chop.
Chop, chop. Okay, final word of warning. It's springtime, y'all. This is the time when things get busy. Gets hectic, right? We're eager. Our sellers are eager. Our buyers are eager. Things are taking a little longer to go through the process, so folks get antsy. Don't let that added pressure keep you from doing or keep your customers from doing their own due diligence. All right.
Very good. John, thank you very
That's
much.
my
I really appreciate
Thank you
Sure.
all.
I appreciate your time. I think, especially keeping us informed.
Yes, sir.
That's the big reason why I wanted you to join us today, because
Yes, sir.
it's that time of year, like you just said, we're going into our spring, summer buying season. Now is when activity really starts ramping up, and you can get busy and just be like, oh, well, I'll just click on this.
It's
I'll just
okay.
do this over here. Like, it'll be fine. It
It's
won't be
fine.
fine. Like protect yourselves, protect your clients. They're counting on us to protect them.
Right.
So thank you, John.
You're
I
very
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thanks much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right.
I do.
All right. I'm gonna get past, oh, here we go. All right, we're gonna jump in and change gears here a little bit. And I want to talk about clear cooperation. So there's this recent study that was done asking folks, like, what is your feeling about clear cooperation? Do you think we should have clear cooperation? Do you think we shouldn't? Should we change it? Should we keep it? And overall, about almost 40% said, yeah, we ought to keep it. And 11% said no. And half of the folks was like, what's clear cooperation anyway? Right? I have no idea what we're talking about. So this is one of those things that's kind of slid underneath the radar. And it's important to me that we have a conversation about this, because I think you guys really need to know what's happening inside the real estate space as it pertains to what's going on with clear cooperation. So National Association of Realtors came out and they amended our clear cooperation policy. So let's start with, what is the clear cooperation policy? How about that? Clear cooperation policy says that within one day, within 24 hours of having a listing agreement signed, we have to enter it into the MLS. Ta-da! I mean, that seems to make perfect sense, I think, to everybody, right? Anybody like that's what the clear cooperation policy is. Basically, it's been, that you can't do pocket listings, right? You have to make sure that you're advertising your property in the MLS. You got 24 hours to put it in. However, we've had a lot of national brokerages and some other folks that don't like the clear cooperation policy. They want to do what's called PLNs, private listing networks. And so they went in and really pushed hard to eliminate the clear cooperation policy. And this to me is a big worry, because we collectively operate on a basis of cooperation, right? This is where we go to see all of our listings. This is like we're going to work together on all that. And we have some large players that are trying to keep people out of it. And so NAR actually said, okay, we are going to have this new option called delayed marketing, right? And so you can do delayed marketing exempt listings, which just basically means you still have to put it into the MLS within 24 hours, but it basically ends up going into a coming soon status now. And so that's the new rule change. But this goes a lot deeper, and I want to talk to you about the reasons here. So first one is that, so this is from Bright MLS. It's one of the largest multiple listing services in the US. They did a big study. And so what you see is inside their MLS, that dark blue line, that represents the number of properties that are not being listed in the MLS initially, that are being listed on private listing networks. They're called office exclusive listings, which means that they're taking them and they're only offering them inside their brokerage, inside their networks, inside to their people. Y'all think that's real good for our industry? So they that's a big worry here, right? My concern is that I don't think this is a good idea. I'm not a big fan of it. Now, it's not just the fact that I don't like it. Okay, I'm real clear about my feelings on it. However, what does the data really show us? So they kept doing they dug a little bit deeper and they said, you know what? Office exclusive listings take longer to sell. So if you're gonna do that, and the whole purpose in doing an office exclusive listing is so that I can double in that deal. I've got the seller, I'm gonna go find the buyer, it's gonna stay within the same brokerage and a lot of times stay within the same agent. Does that sound like it's real good for our industry? hidden inventory, pocket listings, because that's what we're talking about. Well, the reality is it takes them longer to sell. Not only that, it doesn't bring a higher price. It brings a lower price for the seller. Okay, but it gets more nefarious from that. So it's taking longer to sell. And they're making less money.
Are they
Who's-
selling sellers?
Well, that's the thing. What they're doing, right now, we have an entire group in our industry that are telling sellers, this is good for you. I'm gonna privately list your property before it goes out there. I'm gonna try and find you a good deal to begin with. Are they good deals? Not for the sellers, they aren't. Right? So eventually, over 90% of those office exclusives actually end up being listed on the MLS, which is why they have much longer days on market. They take longer to sell. There's no price advantage. Their big concern is that it limits buyers' inventory, access to properties. Like, this is a big deal for me. Now, it's not just Bright MLS that did it. Zillow did it. And Zillow did it and put some numbers to it, right? So the typical seller that sells through a private listing network or office exclusive, on average sells for $5,000 less. It's a good deal for the buyers, I guess. It's a good deal for that agent that can double in the deal. How about for the sellers? I think that it's really bad. It gets a lot worse though. I mean, did y'all see that? Sellers have lost $1 billion in value over 2 years with companies doing this. I think that that's a shame. Not only that, these private listing networks hit families of color more than anybody else. And that is that's shameful. So this is from Zillow. 74% of Hispanic sellers and 73% of Black sellers that work with a real estate agent in one of these companies recommended that they list on a private listing network versus only 24% for white sellers.
It's sad.
Yeah. Now this is not us, so please don't be like, why are you doing this, Alan? I'm not. I'm trying to point out that this is why clear cooperation is really important to me. This is why I want you to understand what's really going on, because this is a real impact out there for true families. And I want to be one of the, like I think it's I have a hard time sometimes believing that people would actually do things like this, that look at things from a racial point of view, because I don't, but like this kind of stuff opens my eyes that this kind of crap is going on out there. And it really, it hurts my soul.
How is it, different from like Mark Spain coming somewhere and saying, I'm gonna guarantee you that you get X amount for your
All right,
house?
so the question is, how is this different from Mark Spain offering to buy your home? It's really very, very different. What this is, hey, you go on a listing appointment, and instead of saying, we're gonna put you out into the MLS, you say, I'm gonna recommend that you go inside our office exclusives. Right, this is gonna be better for you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. But is it really better for them? And it's getting hit up for our families of color, our sellers of color more than anybody.
So what happened is,
Yep.
when Mark Swain go do his listing presentation, by license law, this is the way it should work, okay? Before you're able to list a property, one of the propositions they do, they go in there and say, hey, based on the condition of property, I know a buyer who wants to buy your property for, let's say, $200,000. We all know the house may be worth $250,000, but because they're deferred maintenances that may be minor or what have you, you have to, as an agent, offer your price of purchasing that house, and seller agrees to it before you get a listing agreement. Because the seller may say, you know what, let's try this for 4 weeks, because I'm desperate. They didn't say that intentionally, but let's try to put my house on the market for 4 weeks. After that, I may entertain your offer. So that is the proper way of doing it. So that's the difference. Mark Spain's, and matter of fact, I actually talked to one of Mark Spain agents not too long ago. He says, you know how many houses we actually purchased? 0.
Yeah.
But because their build is so good that most of the time unless you may hit the jackpot once in a blue moon where a seller is desperate. I mean, desperate. They're not telling all their financial situation with you. But they're desperate, but they still wanna try in the open market for 4 weeks before they take your offer.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between, telling clients, hey, let's market internally. I have a group of buyers for you.
Our company
Okay.
has a group of
We're
buyers. I
not-
have a network.
Right, we're not gonna market out MLS. As a listing agent, you should always, because I have an agent came up to me not too long ago, say, hey, I want to market my house for sale by owner. I'm like, you're in real estate, right? They said, yes. I said, why would you do that? What do you mean? Well, how many buyers are you gonna get for sale by owner versus on the max?
Yeah,
What
properties
do
that
you
sell
think?
off the MLS don't sell for as much. They
No.
just don't.
They don't. And that's
Right.
no fact. So that's the difference is that Mark Spain actually sit down with you or his agents. That tells them, this is what my internal investor will purchase it for. But we can market this property at 250 an open market and see who bites. Or if you will want to, and they'll sell you the convenience, you can move whenever you want, blah, 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 blah. We'll buy for 200.
If we can't sell it, then we do that.
Yeah.
But see, unfortunately, we have a lot of large groups of agents, some teams, and then we have several large brokerages that are doing this. And they're doing this solely for their benefit, right? Because they get to double in deals, they get to keep deals in-house, that kind of stuff. But these off-market listings, these are hurting our sellers, right? I have big concerns about the fact of, how this applies to fair housing as well.
Correct.
Does everyone get to see this property listed out here kind of thing? I think that we need to have a lot more transparency. Now, that being said, there's a small group. We've listed a house for an NBA player. He didn't want his property listed inside the MLS, right? And so there is a small group of people who will ask for this, or to where, primarily in the higher end, that kind of stuff. However, if you are going to do this, because the rules are changed now, you do have the rights. You could go out as an agent and do this, right? You must get a disclosure signed from that seller now saying, I waive the benefits for immediate public marketing. So now in Georgia, the easiest thing for us to do is just list it as a non-exclusive, because then that we can't put non-exclusives into the MLS anyway. So you have the ability. Are you going to recommend to your client that they sell via pocket listing, that they sell off market? Right now, that's really what clear cooperation is kind of coming down to. And you're going to see, and I know this is one of those things that's kind of flown under the radar, but it worries me that half of the folks in the real estate community are like, oh, no big deal. And yet we have, we're losing transparency. We're losing a lot of issues out here. See, these companies and these brokerages and some teams, they're saying this is about consumer choice. Should the seller have to list on the MLS? Because see, the problem here is the Department of Justice agrees with them. The Department of Justice says we should not force anyone to list in the MLS.
Which is funny, because that's what we just had.
Well, but see, that's the whole thing. They're saying that they're kind of saying that we're working together to force them into the MLS to charge them fees. No, we want them put in the MLS because that's the place where that's our marketplace out there. So unfortunately, the Department of Justice kind of sees the point, which is why the National Association of Realtors made the call to where you can do these, office exclusives, that kind of stuff. It does still have to go into the MLS within 24 hours. It will show. I talked to FMLS, and Georgia MLS hasn't made their exact call yet. We have until I think October 20th, I believe, is when we don't even have this new disclosure form in the GAR forms yet. So it's pretty new as far as everything coming out. But here's my 2 cents. This is bad for sellers that make less money. This really only benefits the brokers and the agents, because this is people looking to take advantage of. And I think that as an industry, if we go down the road of this is good for me and it's bad for my clients, I think that's how you go out of business.
Remember, our business is about relationship. So if anytime the client feel like you are doing it for your own benefit, not theirs, that word will spread out so much more faster than you can handle.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I have a lot of agent here that does nothing but referral business and they're successful at it. It's because they deal with folks genuinely, ethically, and with integrity.
If you're operating just to take advantage of your clients, that's how you lose clients. So as an industry, this one worries me. I don't like how this is heading. I don't agree with it. Now, opinions like armpits, everybody's got them. Most of them stink. This is mine. Like we do have, there is a time for it. I get that. But like, I worry about our buyers that aren't really able to see all the properties that are in the market. I worry about our sellers being taken advantage of, but most of all, I worry about our industry. I think this is really, really bad for us. So we, as far as Maximum Partners, we are not going to create office exclusives. I've been asked if we were going to do this because we've had people say, well, these other brokerages are going to do this and these other folks are offering this, and it's to the point to where they're offering it and making it sound so good. It's like a benefit. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can be an office exclusive. Woo! Right? They're not telling them the real facts. They're telling them their bias, right? So we're choosing to protect our sellers, our buyers, and our industry. We aren't going to be doing this on here. Please expose all your listings to everybody out there. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question, like, I have a couple of, potential sellers
Mhm.
who are thinking about listing. I don't know what's the difference between this and maybe somebody who's technically a for sale by owner or has not signed anything with you, but you know that they're interested in selling and, like,
So the question is, unless you have something in writing, you cannot advertise in any form, shape, or what have you. Now, can you go up to them and say, hey, if I bring you a buyer, can my compensation be protected? Absolutely. That's why you do authorization to show and list the property. But anything else other than that, you cannot market it for them or beginning to.
I mean, there's a lot of people that ask us to do things like wholesaling, where, hey, like, I know someone will sell this house, like, and they'll just try and do it on the DL, and I get that. As licensees, we must have written permission to advertise.
Correct.
All right. So, Sharon, come here. So we were talking about sellers being taken advantage of. I'd like for you to take advantage of Sharon now.
Don't do that.
Where's your sign? I need your sign. So, now I know this sounds funny that I want you to take advantage of Sharon, but I do want you to take advantage of Sharon. So right now, we have a large number of listings.
Yes, we do.
Like a bunch of listings going on. And we are very blessed as a brokerage to have a lot of listings. Please, again, we're putting them in all the MLSs. However, as listing agents, one thing that come on, Sharon, come over here. So like Sharon's got these signs that if you want to put these up on your listings, if anyone calls to check on their financing, who are you going to send that lead to, Sharon?
Me.
No.
No, I'm kidding. The realtor, whoever's the list.
It's gonna go to the listing agent, right? So as a listing agent, would you like to have potential buyers vetted before they call you on the property? So she has access to these things. So these are gonna be in all the offices. If you wanna put them up on, along with your listing out there. And then anyone that calls Sharon, she's gonna well, first of all, what are you gonna do? How about I shush and let you tell what you're gonna do?
I'm gonna pre-approve them. So I can call you and say, hey, this person's already pre-approved, you need to give them a call.
So Sharon's gonna ask the potential buyer, say, hey, what property address are you looking at? So based on that, she can communicate with Adrian. We can pull it up pretty quickly and say, oh, that's Jasmine's, or that's, Josette, Sherry's, whoever it is. And she will communicate through you, say, hey, you got a good qualified buyer, or you got a buyer that needs about 60 days, but work with them because guess what? You still gotta eat in 60 days, right? So it doesn't matter, is that property you're selling or the next one, right?
The other thing that I'm gonna encourage you as a listing agent, a lot of times we get deals in and sometimes they look a little bit too good to be true. Running by, like you can use Sharon to validate
Mhm.
whether or not somebody's full of.
Yeah, I can do soft
So-
credit. I always do soft credit pulls anyway at the very beginning. I don't ever do a hard one because I don't want to mess anybody with anybody's credit scores. So I really like to see I just got to have a snapshot of what everything looks like. So I make sure their debt to income ratios are fine, make sure the credit scores aren't 400, when they tell me they're 7, and, make sure that you got a viable buyer. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all this, a lot of times people will see this sign because it's red, and people will see this sign and they may not have an agent. They'll just call and say, hey, can you show me that house? Well, I can't show it to you, but the listing agent can, but let me go and get you pre-approved. And then that way, when the agent calls you, you can say, hey, Sharon's already pre-approved me. So you can get business that way with it. It may not even be, somebody that's even calling y'all, they call me.
It's another way of free leads for you guys. We want to do that and partner with Sharon. And that way you guys can get potential more leads in your system and your pipeline. Yes, ma'am.
So how much do the signs cost for this?
Nothing is free.
Okay, how?
Well,
So just use Sharon, yeah.
Well, Sharon paid for it.
Sharon paid for it.
Oh, yeah, that's true, Sharon.
It ain't free.
Well, it's free to us,
It's free to y'all.
that's it.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of times I'll have buyers call me that don't have an agent.
We'll have these signs in all the offices and along with the stands. And so you can, if you want to put them on your listing, again, we're not going to force anyone to do anything, but like, we like the idea of right now. I mean, we're very blessed as a brokerage. I think we have like last month, we had over 170 listings last month. And so that's a really great place for us to be. But like, I would love for those 170 listings, how many of those could you possibly get another buyer off there? Because even if they don't buy that home necessarily,
Right.
right? Like this is a great lead opportunity. You have a house sitting there with a big for sale sign. If you can get a pre-approved buyer out of it, and all you gotta do
Even
is
better.
shove a sign in the yard, like I'm down like 4 flat tires.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Exactly, and I mean, it's part of us, it's part of Max One.
like 4 times.
What my concern is, if I use your sign.
Hmm?
Say for instance, I put it on my Facebook page.
Mhm.
How would you determine it was a call from?
Now on Facebook, this is for listings on here.
But still, it's for buyers. as
Yeah,
well.
that's
That's
true.
true.
To create a unique
So,
link or that connects you with,
To the agent.
with the agent.
We can do that, and well, you know what, that's a great idea, and I can look at doing that, or we can look at doing that in the future. But right now, this is for here.
It's
But
just on Facebook, they know that you're the agent,
Agent,
and then if it's
right.
your listing, they know it's you from the address.
right. So Sharon will always ask a question, where did you find my information from? Who's the agent that referred you? So if someone's looking at your Facebook page, say, oh, I got it from Sharon Sinclair's Facebook page, and she know that John Smith belongs to Sherry Sinclair.
Or what is
Sherry,
it?
Sherry, be sure though, all y'all, be sure, you say your name 15 different times to that buyer, because you know why? I'll call people, you may have sent me somebody, I say, well, who's your agent? Oh, I don't know her name.
Exactly, that's what I was just about to say.
So be sure that they know exactly who you are and what your name is, because I'll ask them, where did the referral, how did you come to call me?
Yeah,
I
Sharon.
go, I don't know her name.
That, so, and you might have to repeat this, but if you, as an agent, share with buyers, the app, you can create an app, a mortgage app with her, and it links you together automatically, so that when you share. it,
Yeah, we can send you an individual app from Sharon, which you can send to your clients, and then that would always be tied to them.
Yeah, because
No,
that,
that's a great
it's
idea.
on their phone, they can do it on their phone.
When I download Sharon's app, okay, when I send it to John Smith, whoever it is, it automatically ties my name with those clients, just so you know.
And you can follow along in the loan process with them.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I should tell you, John Smith has applied. Or John Smith stopped at the bank statement, I mean, comes, hey, what's up, dude, come on, let's go, whatever.
Can we ask a question to McDonough?
Well, thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much. All right. I want to talk about, just really briefly, we need to talk about perspective, right? Because everyone in our industry,
You could have used some other.
Don't compare, don't
it's a
compare.
6 or a 9. It's not 69. Get your head out the gutter, y'all. All right? Y'all so dirty. All right. This is just about perspective. My goodness. All right. But what I want you to understand is that there's a lot of folks in our industry that they have bias. And it depends on when you look at information. I'm seeing so many people that are getting swayed by things that they see on the internet and what they read. And it may be true, but it's about perspective. And what I mean is, so like, what's happening with agent compensation? Yeah, it's going down, right? Well, if I go and I use the scale from 2.5 to 2.68, this is what agent compensation looks like. How about if I do this and make the scale from 0 to 3? What's happening with agent compensation right now,
This is about perspective, how you look at the graph.
right? Are both of these true? Yes, right? So, but see, I'm seeing all sorts of things similar to this. I'm hearing folks that are like, oh, I'm worried about agent compensation, you know, it's kind of going down. Is agent compensation going down? I mean,
0.06%.
0.06% is how much it's gone down.
But let me ask you something, has your sale price increased?
How about that? What's happened with prices during this same time, right? Because our buyer pool is $86 billion. So yes, it's gone down 0.06%. So I've been hearing a lot of folks talking about, you know, this, you know, I'm seeing this happen. I'm seeing this happen. Everyone was very, very concerned about buyer brokerage agreements and about what's happening with buyer agent compensation. What are we seeing happen with in particular, buyer agent compensation?
Actually increased.
Well, it's increased for properties under $500,000. The only place where we've seen a drop in buyer agent representation is on properties over in multi-million dollars.
Correct.
The folks that have the, you know, the booties and all that kind of stuff, all the sunsets and this and that kind of stuff, those reality shows that aren't real. That price point is not seeing it, but they're also, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. That's where they're seeing some price cuts. We're not seeing agent compensation reduced out there. So please don't follow the hype, right? This is what's really going on. Yes, we've seen a 0.06 reduction. That's nothing, okay? Matter of fact, it's well within the range of just, I mean, it's kind of done this for years kind of thing, back and forth. So, I do want to kind of wrap up our group one here with congratulations to our top producers. We've actually got Levi here who is topping the company.
All right.
Yeah. Well, we want to recognize those in our individual offices. So congratulations. Yeah.
Congratulations to all of you guys. That's a lot of hard work, and I
It is.
know a lot of y'all, you know, have not every
Mhm.
transaction are the same, and some are really rocky, while others are a breezer. So just really quick, touching back on the fraud really quick. If you guys have a contract that is a non-bar, non-RE, non-new construction, what I mean by is that if you have special addendum or exhibit from the seller or whoever it is, run it by me if you don't understand it, because the last thing I want you guys to do, well, first of all, I love y'all, but sometimes y'all don't upload stuff until like 2 weeks later. By then, I can't catch it before due diligence day ends, and there's nothing you can do at that point, okay? So please run by either Martin and I. We'll be more than happy to look at it and make sure you understand fully what that addendum is from that particular seller, okay? Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys. All right.